I want to.
I'm no longer queen of the castle.
I want to thank you people so very much in my heart for being you. And as my wife said, at the Bundy protest, I met, say, 2,000 people, and over half of those people come further away than the Mississippi River. They were from the east, and I thank you for coming and supporting. Today I've listened to some great speakers, and haven't totally confused my mind, but I'm sure happy for the things that you have learned today, and I don't really want to try to repeat these things. One little story keeps coming up in my mind, and it has nothing to do with most everything here, but you know, I said I want to come and show how the Second Amendment affected the Bundys. And my whole speech is to be about the Second Amendment. Well, you know, we talk a lot about the right to bear arms. I want to tell you a little story about the right to bear arms. I had a friend. He was actually a mechanic. He worked on farm and construction equipment for me a few times, and he told me this story. He said, I had my wife and 3 little kids, and Nevada is a big world, and he was about 200 miles away from where I live, up by Peoch, Nevada. They're not trees like this. There's like 2 trees, and a little spring come up in that tree, sort of like a roadside rest. And he said, I had my wife and family, and there's a little table there, and he said, we had our picnic spread out on this table along the highway. And he said a car come up and pulled up along the side of them, and it had 3 big guys in it, he said. And he said they just sort of looked us over and didn't really do anything, and they pulled down the road a little ways, and then they come back. And he said, when they come back, they just got out and started grabbing the food, and they, you know, he didn't know what they were going to do. They just taken over their camp, and he said he had a wife and a young daughter there, and a couple of little boys, and he said, I didn't know what was going to happen. But he said when they went down the road and then they come back, he said, I had a feeling. And he said, I went and took my pistol out from under the seat of the car. He said, I just had it sitting underneath my leg. And he says, when they come back and they started to get rough with me, he says, I just pulled that pistol out. And he said they got back in their car and left. But what would have happened if he didn't have that gun with him? Out in the desert, many miles away from everybody, and here he was. I just want to leave that thought with you. How important is our Second Amendment, the right to bear arms? Now I want to go into another phrase of the Second Amendment. The militia. I want to show you a little thing here on a film. I can't see what it is. Oh, I can hear now on this. This is a sign that's in front of the Bundy Ranch, and of course you might have seen it a lot of times. Usually we got some flags on, but click it. Okay. Has the West been won, or has the battle, or has the fight just begun? This picture was, this banner was built many years ago. In fact, it was built and marched down the streets of Las Vegas, I don't know, 30 years ago. The question was, has the West been won, or has the fight just begun? We marched this down in the street of Las Vegas around the courthouse at the Wayne Hage, very first hearing of Wayne Hage. And so this thing has been, this banner has been with me for 30 years. The question has never been answered. Has the West been won? Okay, these pictures here are just some pictures of my ranch. I want to, you know, I could smell, it wasn't the onions I could smell the beef cooking over here. I want to tell you what I do. Clive and Bundy at the Bundy Ranch. What I do is I convert the desert of plants. In other words, the trees and the brush. And the trees don't grow 30, 40 foot high where I live. The bushes are maybe 1.5 foot high. But let me tell you something. That is feed. That is a renewable resource that belongs to man. And what I do is I convert that renewable resource, that grass and that mostly brush, and I convert that into edible commodity. Red meat, hamburger. It's what for dinner. It's good, and that's what I do. These are just some more pictures of the ranch. Here's some cattle on the ranch. Keep going. Here's some more cattle. I always like this picture. It's sort of a mystic picture. I've got some sons up there with cattle, and they're moving them in the dust. I don't know. It's just a nice picture of cattle on the Bundy Ranch. This here is why many of you people come to the Bundy Ranch. First Amendment zone. You know, my daughter Stetsy, the very first confrontation with a BLM or the government was my daughter. She's, I don't know, just 18, 19 years old. She's just married. She was, and the government, she was parking along the side of the road, and the government, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, it's not Black Lives Matter, it's Bureau of Land Management. And I do agree with Black Lives Matter. All of our lives matter. And I don't want you to make too sure that you understand that. But my daughter, she said, my First Amendment is wherever I am. Mm-hmm. And the officers, or whatever you want to call it, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, people said, your First Amendment, we have provided you a place to exercise your First Amendment. And I called them pig pens. They did provide 2 pens. One was over by the freeway, which was from this area probably 5 or 6 miles away. There was another by the town of Mesquite. And what they were fenced off areas with plastic fencing around it. They didn't have even a gate in it, but they had the First Amendment zone area sign on it. And the government was telling we the people and the media, if you have any complaints, you've got to go and get in that First Amendment area. And then they had time limits where you could only be in one area at a time. And my daughter said, my First Amendment rights is anywhere I stand here in America. And so she made really the shot that was fired around the world. My daughter fired that shot. And then other things happened. This is my son Dave. We don't have a picture of him actually where the government has thrown him down. Maybe we do, but anyway, this is him after they got through roughing him up. And let me tell you what my son told me. I don't want to be long here, but I want to give you a little background on my son. My son was, when he was little, he was like a little bear. And he loved his dad. And he went with me everywhere I went. If I got on a piece of equipment, he would climb on and I'd tuck him down between my arms and hold him on the equipment. If I was on a horse, he'd get on the back of my horse and put his little fingers in my Levi belt loops and hang on. And I've seen him hang on to the point that the skin come off his little fingers, and he still wouldn't give up. He always wanted to be with his dad. And so on this day, which was like a Wednesday or something before the protest on Saturday, my son he had been in construction business. We had a housing boom left. And he had educated himself that he was going to be an airplane pilot, a jet, for flying commercial airplanes. He had got a college education. He had passed all of his tests, and he was basically qualified to be a trainer of airline pilot, so heavy jets. But he didn't have enough hours to do the flying. He had to get more hours, jet time. So he was on the way to Laughlin, Nevada to take a new job on and to fly for Grand Canyon Airlines for scenic tours. Well, he knew it was his mother's birthday, and he'd stopped off in either St. George, Utah or Mesquite, Nevada, and bought a bouquet of roses. And it really, I get mad when I tell this story. But my son, in his little good heart, he stopped by the ranch to give his mother flowers. And when he stopped off, he finds out that the BLM has started taking over, and they're going to they're gathering their cows. And so, in curiosity, he drives up and wants to see what they're doing along the highway. And they take and beat him to the ground. I don't know if you've probably seen. They ground gravel in his face, and they put him in a car, and they take him over where they're collecting the cattle, and they treat him like a trophy buck or deer. They walk around and talk about him, sort of harass him, and then they take him to Las Vegas and put him in jail and keep him overnight. And let me tell you, this picture is taken after. Dave, he said, Dad, he said, I thought my life was over. He said, I figured that it was going to kill me. And he said, I was to that point, and he said, then something happened. He said, they come and threw me a sack lunch, took my handcuffs and shackles off, and opened the door and kicked me out on Las Vegas Boulevard. And I got a phone. Then he had a credit card in his pocket. He didn't have no money, but he traded his for a tank of gas so a lady could let him use his phone. And he called me, and this is what I found when I got back, when I went to pick him up. This was a picture of his abuse. And this is our government treating my son that way. So people, not only the First Amendment thing now we have a son that's been beat up along the highway for no reason at all. This is another thing, reason people come. This, down in the blue, is my sister. She's just barely getting over throat cancer. She's been having trouble for, 4 or 5 years, just about dead. And here she is, basically trying to defend her family's ranch and be part of the protest. And they literally grab her and throw her to the ground. And when people seen this, it infuriated them, and they were people coming from the east for this purpose. Yeah, and to give you an idea, some of the control, remember, you see these actions coming, and guess what we do? We call 911 for help. And guess what happens? 911 won't respond to us. They actually say, it's a BLM problem. So in other words, when we had emergency, our county and our local government wouldn't even send emergency help. This is another instance that happened right after Margaret was thrown down. My son Ammon was infuriated. They just threw his aunt to the ground. And so what does he do? He goes into defense. And what do? They sick their dogs on him and taser him. They taser him 3 times. And he's still a strong enough man that he stood and kicked their dogs off. And basically what happens now is we the people come and gather around and basically run the Bureau of Land Management, supposed officers down the road. And so now this has happened about, 3 or 4 days before April the 12th, 2014. And so people starts coming. And like I said, they come from all parts of the nations. I had people coming from this area here. I had people coming from Florida. There was people coming out of Canada and Alaska. And when they came, I would say, well, why are you here? And not every one of them said, I don't know why we're here. I just felt like that I had to come. And so they come because they were sort of spiritually moved. Was any of you people, were you there? Did you come? Anybody that was
No, I was not.
Come to Bundy Ranch? Okay, wonderful. You know, I could ask, why did you come? But let me tell you something. They all come because they felt some spiritual draw. And what was we doing at the Bundy Ranch on April 14th? You know, the media says we were Bundy armed standoff. That we went to assault our federal officers. That's what the media tell you. No, that's not what happened at all. We were protesting our county sheriff. Why was we protesting our county sheriff? I believe the federal government don't have no jurisdiction authority over my ranch or my cattle or my life in my county, Clark County, Nevada. So who should I be protesting to, regression to, or well, it wouldn't be the federal government, it would have to be my local sheriff. So I'm going to my local sheriff, I'm going to my county commissioners, I'm going to my state representative, I'm going to my state brand inspector, livestock brand inspector. Why am I going to those people? Because they have sworn to the oath to uphold the Constitution and the state law. And they are to protect my life, liberty, and property. And so I'm not protesting the federal government at all. I can't even hardly be mad at the federal government. I have to be mad at those that won't do their duty. You know, today, my wife mentioned a little bit, when I come out of the jail, they asked me, what are you going to do now? Or what's your next step? I said, I don't know what my next step is. I've either got to forgive and forget, or I'm going to hold accountable all of those aiders and abettors. Okay, we've had much abuse, we've had cattle get killed, I've just got through spending 700 days in jail. And who am I going to hold accountable? Well, you know, I told them I didn't know at that time, and 4 months has passed and I still really don't know. The one thing I do know is if I'm going to hold anybody accountable, I'm going to have to hold my local elected officials accountable. They're the ones that I elected, and they're the ones I pay to protect my life, liberty, and property. I know that's a little bit hard to understand. Why aren't you mad at the federal government? Well, where do I begin? Am I supposed to be mad at President Trump, Secretary Sessions, down the line? I mean, just who am I going to try to get some hideout from? And am I going to spend the rest of my life trying to get some hideout from somebody that I probably can't get it done anyway? If I can, I'm surely not going to get paid. Everybody, I mean, so how are we going to hold them accountable? I don't know, but I do know one thing. It's so very important that we have elected sheriff. One that we nominate and one we elect and one we pay to protect our life, liberty, and property. We've got state officials that need to be uphold their oath. And our county commissioners have got to uphold their oaths. So when I look at this election that's coming up, where am I looking? I'm really not looking at our federal, you know, Harry Reid, for example, and he's been out.
Dirty Harry.
But let me tell you something about Dirty Harry. I say the Dirty Harry. This is when he was a senator in the United States Senate, but he was also the chairman or what the House of the Senate, majority leader of the Senate. And so here's what Clive and Bundy would tell Harry. I'd said, Harry, we in Nevada elected you to represent Nevada. We the people elected you. Now for hell's sake, get back there to Washington D.C. and do your job. Okay, and if you don't have nothing to do here in Nevada, your job is back there. We elect you to go back and take care of some business back in Washington D.C. Now, Harry, if you want to come back to Nevada, we might let you tell us what color to paint the post office wall. Now think of what I'm saying. I'm saying, Harry Reid, you don't have no jurisdiction authority in Nevada. That's not what we elected you to do, to manage our land or anything. We elected you to do something else, so get back there and do it. And that's really how I think. Now the ones that we elect to do those kind of things, let's talk about somebody like the Nevada State Brand Inspector. He's not elected, but I did elect the governor of the state of Nevada, and he's appointed that man to be over the livestock identification part of the thing. And what's their job? Their job is to make sure my cattle don't get stolen. That's the only job he has. And here he is, aiding and abetting with the federal government, stealing my cows, signing brand inspections, signing ownership documents, actually turning the ownership of my cattle from Clive and Bundy to United States government. And he signs the brand certificate. Well, is this guy accountable, or should I hold this guy accountable, or what should I do? I mean, he's the one that was stealing my cows. Let me tell you something about these local elected officials. You know, if the county sheriff said no, and I think Sheriff Mack actually said this, if the county sheriff says no to the federal government, you know what I believe will happen? I believe that the federal government will bow to that county sheriff. I believe if our governor said no to that federal government, that they would bow to the state governor. And I believe if that brand inspector said no to the government, the federal government, that they would never gather my cattle, they would never stole my cattle, they'd never come and kill my cattle. They would have never abused my family and my neighbors and my friends. And you people wouldn't have had to come. This is a picture of when Ammon gets tased, and why is he getting tased? He wants to look in that dump truck to see what's in that dump truck. Remember, Margaret has just been through the ground, that upsets him. But the main reason the people are there, we the people are there, and my son Ammon, is they want to see what's in that dump truck. There's a dump truck with a backhoe on a trailer behind the dump truck, and I think there's 13 cars, BLM vehicles, with armed guards in it. So why are they guarding this dump truck going down the desert road? These patriots are sort of interested in what's happening. Well, they think that they might be dead cattle in there. But what they actually found is my dead water tanks, dead water lines. They tore out the infrastructure that gives life to the desert. And they had them in this dump truck. And so that's one of the things we found out. So, okay. Now I want to talk, this is what I want to talk to you about. The militia. Who are these people? You see Clive and Bundy, and you see these men around me. These men are the militia that came to protect Clive and Bundy and his family. And this is a good example of what they did. They walked beside me, they lived beside me, they guarded me, not only for this day, but for months. And what were they guarding me against? They was guarding me against the tyrannical government. They wasn't guarding me against my neighbors or any kind of thief or bad guys. They was actually guarding me against my own government, my federal government. And this is a picture. You got another picture of them there? Here's a picture of Sheriff Gillespie on the stand. I'm on the stand, but look at who's standing in front of me. Do you realize what this is telling the government? They're telling the government, remember, I don't know whether you remember this, but I was known for the last man standing. last man standing. I was standing here, and I can't say that no more. I'll never be the last man standing again, and I never will be the man that stood alone. Because why? Malaysia was there, and they stood with me. I've heard my son Ryan, and I've also heard my son Hammond in speeches, and even in court. I seen my son, must have been Ryan, in court. He defended himself in court, and before the jury, he turned around and pointed at Ryan Payne, which was in the courtroom with us as a defendant. He turned around and pointed his arm at Ryan Payne, and he said, "This man saved my life." And what was he talking about? Malaysia. You guys saved his life. He said, "This man saved my life." And I think we got to stop and think about that. In America, I don't think they're going to take your guns away from you. That Second Amendment right. They're going to make a lot of noise and everything, but they're not going to take those guns away from you. But are they going to take this away from you, the protection of militia? That's what Clive and Bundy has got as a theme today to talk to you about. Are they going to take this militia? Are they going to whip this militia? They are trying so hard to whip this militia that these guys won't have guts enough to come and stand again with Bundy. They want Bundy to stand alone. They're going to come and whip him real easy. But they're not sure whether Malaysia's going to be there. And you know, Clive and Bundy's not sure either. They've really worked on the militia. They've put, I don't know, they put a bunch of them in jail. They have scared them to the point that they pled. And when they pled, they created a lie that how do you overcome that? And we have the Oregon example. You know, my sons went to Oregon to help Dwight and Steve Hammond. They don't have a penny's interest in that, or they don't have any investment in that or anything. They've seen a neighbor rancher, which was, I don't know, 500 or 600 miles away, that was in trouble. And they had seen their dad and the Bundy Ranch in trouble. They knew what kind of trouble it was in. And when they went to try to help the Hammonds, the first thing my son Hammond did was he tried to get the local government to, we want to review this court decision. Hammonds are going to jail for 5 years for burning their own grass. And this court system has convicted them, and the Ninth Circuit has even upheld their conviction, and now they're going to jail for 5 years. And my son just couldn't stand the thoughts of that. So he went and tried to get a review of this court procedure. He tried at the county level, he tried at the state level, he tried at the federal level. And then they have a protest march. I think it's on January, it's supposed to happen. They're supposed to go back to jail on January the 2nd. I think it's like New Year's Day or something. They have this rally, and they march, and people show up. Remember, it's sub-zero weather up there. And then when they get done, what have they done? They've had a nice protest. They've tried to regress their governments. And they have a big protest, and they haven't accomplished nothing. The Hammonds are still going to jail day after tomorrow. And so that's when they take over this Maori refuge. And what do? They're in a protest. We got to do something. What are we going to do? So this is what they decided to do. Well, here's the problem. When they did this, they figured that hundreds of militia would come and back them up and support them. But there were a few militia come. But most of the militia come and stood off the side and allowed this whole thing to happen. Allowed the boy to get killed. Well, now we're to the point I'm saying, is the militia done? Are we done? In America, is that a thing of the past?
No.
Are we going to strengthen it and make it to where? So my question before you here is not about our Second Amendment right to carry. My real concern is the militia. What are we going to do about the militia? Are we going to strengthen it? Is it going to be part of America? Is it going to be part of our Constitution? 4 times in the United States Constitution, militia is mentioned. It is important. It was important to our founding fathers. You can see the example of how important it was to Bundy Ranch, and it could be important to America in many, many ways in the future. But is it going to die? Are we all going to have fear? I don't know. That's a question you people have to ask. And if I'm going to come to a Second Amendment rally, I'm going to pay attention to the first sentence of the Second Amendment.
Right, thank you.
You know, my wife gave a very good speech here and expressed a lot of things. I just want to express my thanks to you people. Now, I spent 700 days as a political prisoner of the United States government. And I don't think that that's right at all. But I'm not the only one that spent 700 days. You know, I had 4 sons, and there was 19 of us all together. And let me tell you something. I was just fine. I felt like that, hey, I've had 30 years of fight with the federal government. I knew that if I got arrested, that there was no freedom for me. They was basically wanting to either shoot me in the head or put me away in jail for the rest of my life. I knew that. But do you have any idea how it is to be with, say, 18 other young men that's got families and little kids home that are and wives? Do you know how much miserable and suffering our federal government, put those men through, and their wives and their families? You know, it can't be explained. We were able to have the blessings of our Heavenly Father, and let me tell you why we had the blessings of our Heavenly Father. It was because of your prayers and your thoughts and your sacrifices. We were blessed. I was blessed every day. Every one of those 700 days, I was able to feel the Spirit of the Lord a little bit somewhere along the day. It made it to where I was able to get through that time. And I'll tell you, I'm just as strong today as I was when I went 2 years ago or 4 years ago. I have more faith in my Heavenly Father. I recognize His blessings more than ever, and I'll tell you, we do have a Heavenly Father that loves all of us. I don't know really what more to say. I come along.